For more on this, let's bring in David Tafuri, former foreign policy advisor to the Obama campaign and a former State Department official as well. David, good to see you today. You know, a lot's being said about the way the president phrased something. But does he have a point when he says, you know what, we have bigger fish to fry on the international stage?
Look, it's clear that Russia intended to interfere in our election. Anyone who doesn't believe that can read the intelligence community assessment of January 6th. Now, it's also clear that Putin denies that, and the Kremlin denies that. What's not clear is what Trump actually believes, because he's gone back and forth on that, sometimes saying he agrees with our intelligence community, sometimes, as his previous tweet said, suggesting that he believes Putin when Putin denies it. Here's the problem with President Trump's latest explanation. He now says that he believes Putin believes that Russia didn't interfere. But the intelligence community assessment makes clear not just that Russia intended to interfere, but it also makes clear that Putin directed that effort.
I want to step in there because we just played sound from the president, and we can play more, we can play it again, where he says he believes the intelligence agencies. And he said, if you listen to the original context of the quote, and we don't have to go back days to do this, but if you listen to it, he says that he thinks that Putin believes what he's saying. Moving forward, the president says the overarching issue, the bigger issue, bigger fish to fry on the international stage. That was my question to you. And again, we can play it again. He believes the U.S. intelligence agencies. You've heard the president say that.
Well, he backtracked and said that. My only point is he can't say that he believes Putin believes that Russia didn't intend to interfere, because the intelligence community assessment says that Putin directed the effort to interfere. But with respect to the effort to try and find some common ground with Putin, yes, that is important. But what President Trump should really be saying is, we know you interfered in our election, we know you've done other things that are against America's interests, and we're going to hold you to that unless you do some of the things that we want you to do now, like help us get North Korea to come to the table, like pull back your support for the separatists in eastern Ukraine, like pull out of Syria. If Russia were to agree to do those things because we've held them accountable for the effort to interfere, that would be a good effort.
Why didn't former President Obama do any of those things that fell underneath his category of leadership? Some of them have fallen outside because of the timing of it all. But why didn't he do some of the things that he could have changed? You worked for the campaign.
Well, you make a good point. President Obama also didn't take a strong enough stance against Putin and against Russia. For instance, in Syria, where we sort of looked the other way when Russia went into Syria, and we looked the other way as Russia said it was fighting ISIS, but it was actually attacking some of the forces that the U.S. was supporting in Syria. That was a mistake. It was also a mistake for President Obama to not take a stronger stand against Russia when Russia went into Crimea and when it supported separatists in eastern Ukraine. But the difference is President Obama was making statements against Russia, making it clear how...
Yeah, but those statements didn't change any actions.
He wasn't trying to roll over the fact that what Russia was doing was against international law and against U.S. interests. And in fact, President Obama led the effort to put in place sanctions against Russia, including sanctions against for having directed this interference in our election.
Yeah. The rhetoric from the former president, his words didn't change any of the actions. I give you the red line with Syria. By the way, there's an investigation going on right now of several uses rather, of chemical weapons on the Syrian people. We already have seen what the current president will do. Those Tomahawk missiles, very different from both these men. Let's move on, though, to one of those bigger umbrella issues on the world stage that President Trump may be pointing to, and that is North Korea. He's on a very important trip right now. President Trump is saying it would be a good thing if he were friends with North Korean dictator Kim Jong-il, or at least if they were on a good communication basis. He first expressed hope that it could happen in a tweet, and then a reporter asked him about it. Let's watch this together, David.
I think anything's a possibility. Strange things happen in life. That might be a strange thing to happen, but it's certainly a possibility.
Democratic Congressman Seth Moulton of Massachusetts tweeted this: "Let me suggest you try being an enemy he respects rather than a friend." You know, diplomacy takes many shapes, and we've heard ambassadors say this, we've heard even generals say this to me anyway, I've heard it. What do you take of what's happening right now?
Well, President Trump is correct to continue with diplomacy, including trying to form a personal relationship with Kim Jong-un and maybe meeting with Kim Jong-un to try and find some ground where they can agree. The problem, of course, is that Kim Jong-un does not have America's interests at heart, and he's shown no willingness to compromise on his nuclear ambitions. But if President Trump can use the formation of a relationship to get things for the U.S., that's a good thing, but he has to make sure he doesn't let that personal relationship cloud his judgment. I think that's really unlikely with North Korea, but we've seen that happen with Russia, where his relationship with Putin and his willingness to overlook some of the things that Putin does has clouded his relationship about what Russia and how that goes against American interests. I don't think that's as likely with North Korea. I think he understands what's at stake.
Wow. Okay. David Tafuri, very strong.